Countries don't go bankrupt. They become insolvent and can't pay their debts. We predict that Canada will become insolvent within 5 years. The clock is ticking. The Carney government is running a budget deficit of $90 billion this year and is projecting budget deficits of $60 billion for the next 4 years. Canada's total combined government net debt, federal and provincial, is approximately $2.3 trillion and will climb to $2.7 trillion in 5 years. Already, the first year's deficit will be closer to $100 billion, with the recent consumer rebates for EV purchases and groceries, which will cost $18 billion. The government's incapacity to rein in expenses has gone on now for some 15 years, starting under Prime Minister Stephen Harper after the 2008 global financial crisis, and followed by Justin Trudeau, who never once balanced a budget during his 10 years in office. Under Carney, however, budget deficits are in overdrive, and our national debt is fast exploding. In 2024, Canada's gross debt represented 110% of GDP, and Canada had the fastest growing debt in the G7. We are now on a par with the UK and France. When was the last time you heard a serious conversation about government debt and overspending in Canada? Politicians don't want to talk about it. Economists don't dare talk about it. Ordinary people who have to balance a budget every month and business people who have to meet a payroll know all about it. They know better than the politicians and economists how this sorry story ends. Pensioners who live on fixed incomes are concerned by government overspending, and for good reason. Why is this? Well, you may remember during the Great IMF bailout from 2010 to 2018, pensions were cut by 40%, and taxes increased substantially. In Argentina, under President Milei's shock therapy, pensions were slashed by 16%, with many pensioners receiving barely $300 per month. Will Canadian pensioners be obliged to live on such a paltry sum? We are staring down the barrel of a huge financial disaster for pensioners, public servants, the young and the old. It is our grandchildren who will struggle through 20 years of financial misery to set things right. It takes years to earn back the trust of investors and reimburse debt. We could expect high rates of unemployment and few government services. Public transport, daycare, police services, healthcare, and veteran services will all be cut. You will pay your doctor with your credit card. If you want a service, you'll have to pay for it. Houses will be sold at a fraction of their acquisition costs. Your mortgage will be in negative equity territory. You can't make your car payments, your car will be seized. You can't pay the rent, you end up on the street. The financial turmoil will be endless. Life will continue, of course, but at a very slow pace. Canada is not alone. Look at the UK and France and the US. Canadians have forgotten what the 1929 Great Depression looked like. Our grandparents called it the dirty 30s. People struggled to put food on the table. There were high rates of unemployment and poverty, drastic reductions in industrial production and international trade, and widespread bank and business failures around the world. We risk becoming another IMF basket case like Greece, Argentina, Sri Lanka, Ecuador, etc. The IMF will impose austerity measures which will affect every level of government. It is not just the federal government that will be bankrupt. The provinces will also be insolvent. Look at Ontario's deficit of $14.6 billion this year, and its ballooning debt expected to rise to $502 billion by 2027. Ontario has added nearly $150 billion to its debt load since Doug Ford took office back in 2018. Quebec's budget deficit this year is almost identical at $13.6 billion, and its total debt is $258 billion. 6 out of 10 provinces are projecting consecutive budget deficits over the next few years. The same goes for our cities. Toronto municipal debt is around $11 billion, with a shortfall of $1.7 billion. The mayor, Olivia Chow, increased property taxes to 9.5% in 2024 and 6.9% in 2025. The Ontario government will again have to bail out the city for the shortfall, because Toronto is not allowed to run a deficit. Montreal is no different, running deficits of $50 million with a net debt of $6.6 billion. Overspending is rampant in this country. We love new cars, home renovations, and holidays in the South. We are addicted to borrowing money, as are our MPs. We love kicking the can down the road and dumping debt on the heads of our grandchildren. Total household debt in Canada surpassed $3 billion in September 2024, and the average Canadian now carries approximately $41,000 in household debt, excluding mortgages. So try to imagine how hard Canadians are going to fall when it all comes crashing down. It is past time for governments to clean up their act. We need a debt break or a plan to impose some kind of sanity on our overspending. If you are worried about debt and government overspending, check out our upcoming episodes. Insolvent in 5 is produced by Cinegraphica Media.